Welcome one and all to another episode of RGR Football. In today's video, we're going to ask two very simple questions. The first is, are the Bills paper tigers? Are the Buffalo Bills for real? Or is their 8-2 record all smoke and mirrors? The second question we're going to ask is whether or not the Chiefs have been riding on the razor's edge all year long, and perhaps their 9-0 record is also a mirage. So we're going to address these two things in this video. Welcome, I'm Gary McKenzie, your host here at RGR Football. Thank you everyone for stopping by. If you have the time and you want to, make sure you subscribe and then hit that like button down there. But let's get into the content of today's video. So are the Buffalo Bills paper tigers? That's the first thing I want to ask. So currently the Bills are 8-2, and that sounds like a pretty darn good record. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL, with number 3 in points scored, number 14 in yards gained. Their defense, on the other hand, is taking a step back. They're number 9 in points allowed and number 18 in yards allowed, and we'll talk about why that is in just a little bit. But back to the paper tiger topic, the Bills have not played a very difficult schedule. As of now, they have the 5th easiest schedule in all of the NFL. They have only played 3 games versus teams that currently have a winning record. And in those 3 games, they are 1-2. So they've won 1, they've lost 2, and those 3 teams they've played that have a winning record, one of them was the Arizona Cardinals, week 1, who were seemingly dysfunctional to start the season and have since gone on a pretty good winning streak to get into first place in the NFC West. So the Buffalo Bills saw the Cardinals week 1. They beat them in Buffalo by a score of 34-28. That's their one win versus teams with a winning record so far in 2024. Their next game versus a team with a winning record was versus the Baltimore Ravens. They lost that game. They got killed by the Ravens 10-35. And this was the first time in several years where the Bills have lost by more than one score. So Josh Allen notoriably has always kept the Bills in games, kept it close. This was not the case. They got the doors beat in by the Ravens, and this game was in Baltimore. The next week, they went to Houston to play the Texans in week 5. They lost this game as well by a score of 20-23. The Texans didn't quite abuse the Bills quite like the Ravens did, but in these 3 games, the Bills have not looked that great versus teams with a winning record. Versus teams without a winning record, they've looked incredible. I mean, they beat Jacksonville in week 3 by a score of 47-10. They knocked Tua Tagovailoa out in their week 2 matchup versus Miami to win that game 31-10. They killed the Tennessee Titans 34-10. They destroyed Seattle 31-10. And then last week, they beat the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 30-20. But all these teams have something in common, and they all have a losing record. The Chiefs, on the other hand, have done much better versus teams with winning records. But we're here to talk about this first question of whether or not we think the Bills are paper tigers. So, when we're talking about whether or not a team has become a paper tiger, we have to kind of look at the context of what's been going on with that organization and what are the trends looking like. So the Bills, over the past 4 seasons, have been one of the best teams in all of the NFL. Last season, though, they had several key departures, starting with Stephon Diggs. So they lost Stephon Diggs in free agency. And then they also lost Gabe Davis, another good wide receiver for them. And they also lost Mitch Morse, starting center, really good player. And so these are 3 offensive pieces. Who did they replace them with? Well, in terms of the wide receiver room, they drafted Keon Coleman, who appears to be a pretty good young player. They also recently signed and traded for Amari Cooper, and they added Curtis Samuel, too, in the offseason. So these 3 guys come in to help try to replace the void that Stephon Diggs left. And then defensively, This is where we see the problems for the Bills. They lost Jordan Poyer. They lost Tre'Davious White. They lost Matt Milano this year to IR. And this is why I think you see the Bills having a worse defense this year, even though they've played worse teams than they did last season. So the Bills are kind of sliding backwards and getting worse, in my opinion. And I said this at the start of the year. Even though they're 8-2, I don't think they're as good as they were last year. However, they are still 8-2. And Josh Allen is playing really well. He's throwing for almost 64% completion percentage. He's got 2,281 yards, passing 17 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. You know he can run the ball all over the place. He's good at scoring rushing touchdowns, and he has a rating of 100.2. So to answer the question about whether or not I think the Bills are paper tigers, I need a little more data. I know that's not the answer you want, but I think this game versus the Chiefs is going to tell me who they are. If they end up losing this game to the Chiefs and they end up being 1-3 versus teams with a winning record, they're going to start giving me Miami Dolphins vibes, where sure they can beat up on bad teams, but versus the best teams, they're going to have problems. And that would go along with issues I've seen with this team losing a lot of players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and then, trying to replace Stephon Diggs and having a challenge doing that. So this game is going to kind of tell me whether or not I think the Bills are legit or not. If they lose, I'm going to be more convinced that they are paper tigers and that 8-2 record is a bit of mirage and a creation of their weak schedule. But if they end up beating the Chiefs, then I'm going to think, okay, this team's legit. The Chiefs are going to have to fight with them to try to get the number 1 seed in the division, in the conference. And so this game has got a lot of beans on the table for the Chiefs and for the Bills, but the jury's still out. Now's your time in the comments, though. Do you think the Bills are paper tigers? Do you think they're a legitimate competitor? Do you think they just benefited from a really good schedule, really easy schedule? Or are they really going to cause the Chiefs problems, both in the regular season, in this regular season matchup, and the playoffs? As you know, the Bills are 3-1 with Josh Allen versus Mahomes in the regular season, but in the playoffs, they're 0-3. The last time Mahomes beat the Bills was on October 19th, 2020. The last time he beat them in the regular season. It's been a different story in the postseason, but in the regular season, it's been more difficult. So moving on to the Chiefs, this question of the Chiefs, are the Chiefs on the razor's edge? Are they just teeter-tottering, and there may be shades of last year's Eagles team that was somehow 10-1 and then collapsed at the end of the season? Are the Chiefs on the brink of a collapse? And the first reason people are asking this is because the Chiefs, 9 wins this season. They're 9-0, but 8 of those 9 wins were by 1 score. So the Chiefs are winning close games. So I want to kind of temper this with a couple things, a couple caveats. The first one is that it's not unusual for really good defensive teams to win a lot of 1-score games. Because when you play good defense and your offense maybe is not dominating, which is the same situation for the Chiefs this year, the scores are going to be lower, and therefore, because of lower scores, you're going to have more 1-score games. So you can somewhat explain away these 1-score wins for the Chiefs just to the fact that they have a fair offense and a really good defense, and that's just how the team's constructed. They are constructed to win 1-score games. So that's one thing. But I also want to look back at that loss the Chiefs had on Christmas Day last year versus the Raiders. Since that game, they have won 12 straight 1-score games. So if the game is decided by 1 score, the Chiefs have won 12 in a row since that loss to the Raiders. I think after that game on Christmas Day, the Chiefs had a reckoning. And Andy Reid talks about this day a lot. He even called the Raiders head coach to thank him after that loss, after the season was over, to say, hey, you kind of woke my boys up, and now we're playing a lot different. And you could see this sea change in the way the Chiefs played too. The offense got tighter. They became a little more protective of the ball. Things seemed to get cleaned up, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They simplified things. They possessed the ball more. They ran the ball more. They quit taking as many unnecessary risks on the offensive side of the ball. And that's translated to these 12 consecutive one-score wins. So in the NFL, one-score games can go either way. Oftentimes, it's a 50-50 advantage. And neither team has an advantage in a one-score game. And you can take that data back to last season prior to that Christmas Day game, and the Chiefs were 6-4 for the rest of that season in one-score games. So it's not unusual for teams to have a 50-50 win percentage in these one-score games. The likelihood that the Chiefs win 12 consecutive one-score games, assuming it's a 50-50 shot, is around a 1 in 5,000 chance. And if there's anything I know about in the NFL, is that 1 in 5,000 chances don't happen very often. There's usually some mechanism behind it for why that is happening. And the mechanism, I believe, for why the Chiefs are able to win these one-score games is because they have some of the greatest coaches in NFL history. So Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, both of these gentlemen know how to win football games. And they are doing so at a very high level. This is the magic sauce for the Chiefs. So these one-score games, I don't believe they're a fluke. I don't believe that this is just, some happenstance that they have this 1 in 5,000 chance to win these 12 games in a row by one score. I think it's tied directly to the style that they play, the coaching that they have, the defensive mindset that the team has. They are going to be in a position to win a lot of one-score games, and they're going to do so because they have the leadership and the defense to do it. So to answer the question, are the Chiefs on the razor's edge? I'm going to say emphatically no. They are not on the razor's edge. These one-score games are not a fluke. Now, does that mean next week they can't lose to the Bills by one score? No, that doesn't mean that. All it means is that in these one-score games, if the Chiefs are going to play tight games versus somebody, I like their chances. And this is why I like the Chiefs' chances versus the Bills, because Josh Allen is known for keeping games within one score. And the Chiefs seem to have this formula to win one-score games. And this plays to the Chiefs' advantage, especially after their learning lesson last year after Christmas. So I'm taking the Chiefs in this game 27-20. I think they're going to beat the Bills in Buffalo. I think Mahomes plays very well. I'm taking the over on the points, which is not usual for me in a Chiefs game. Usually I want the under. But I'm taking the over in the points. Chiefs win. And that's where I see things standing. So are the Bills Paper Tigers? I'm not sure. Need one more game to evaluate. Let's see what happens versus Kansas City. If the Chiefs go in and beat up on the Bills, I'm going to say, yeah, maybe they're not as good as their 8-2 record suggests. And then are the Chiefs on the razor's edge? I'm going to say get the hell out of here with that, because they're 9-0. They know how to win these one-score games. They have the pedigree. This is not luck. This is not chance, albeit that blocked field goal is, kind of lucky, I would say in some ways, but that's one game. But this is just a symptom of a team that has great coaching and knows how to win football games. So that's my take on that. Chiefs are not on the razor's edge. Here's to a good football game on Sunday. I'm going to enjoy watching it. I hope you all enjoy it too. The rest of y'all, have a good weekend and take care. This is Gary signing out. Go Chiefs.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.